If you are someone who's experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, or if you are someone who's just interested in learning about post-traumatic stress disorder, then you must have heard of a term called dissociation. But do you really know what does it mean, or what does it feel to experience it? If not, and if you would like to learn more about what dissociation is, then keep watching. We can say in very simple terms that dissociation, it is a temporary disconnection or disruption to what we would in general say is a normal integration of our behaviors, our memories, our perception of who we are or of whom other people are, of our motor perceptions, and as well of our emotions and our consciousness. One of the types of dissociation, it is actually depersonalization, when maybe someone is experiencing extreme stress, or maybe someone is extremely tired. And what might happen is that people, they might describe it as out-of-body experience. So they would describe as them watching themselves from the corner of the room. On the other hand, we might also have people who experience dissociation in a slightly different way. So they might get confused about maybe time. So they might just carry on with the task during the day, but then suddenly they will just realize that they don't know whether it is morning, whether it is evening or afternoon. Someone else might actually completely forget what even the date is today, or they might not know what month we are in. They might not know whether we are in spring or winter. So we might have also someone else who might be experiencing this dissociation in a way that they get really confused about where they are. So although they might be going to work every day, taking the same route, but then still at some point when maybe they're experiencing that high levels of stress, they might dissociate and they might really get confused, like where they are, what road they need to take next in order to get to their destination. Normally those type of dissociations, they last maybe a split of seconds. For some people they might last for minutes. But I've also worked with people who complain about getting track of time that will last for hours during the day. And also what is really devastating about those dissociations, when people, they get confused about time or location, or maybe when they have this out-of-body experience, that only creates even more distress for them. Because can you imagine how scary it is when you're doing something and you suddenly you just realize that you don't even know what time of the day is, or you don't know like where you are. Everything just seems like it's very unfamiliar. We also have different types of dissociations that are much more complex than these are, but I'm going to actually make a separate video on this. So although within science we have a lot of research done on post-traumatic stress disorder and on dissociations, there is still a lot of disagreement about where dissociations they actually originate. But what we know that dissociation, it is actually one of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So for instance, when someone is experiencing flashback, we could say that flashback is already some sort of level of dissociation, because the person actually is being taken away by the flashback into the past, into the time when the trauma has happened. And in a way they are disconnected from reality, because they're losing track of time, of they're losing sense of their reality, and they are re-experiencing what has happened to them in the past. And then also we have foggy brain, spacing out, zooming out, numbing, and these are all symptoms of a PTSD. And to an extent we could say that these are already symptoms of mild dissociations. So these different types of dissociations, like for example zooming out or maybe foggy brain, they can occur when people are being triggered by maybe some sounds or some images and maybe some smells or any other external input. And they are obviously, they're gonna last for a certain time, and the person is gonna be able then to connect fully with the reality. But for people who are experiencing depersonalization, which is also a type of dissociation, this type of dissociation can actually last for much longer. There are different theories of how we can explain dissociation and what it is and how it happens. But one of the most common explanations is that dissociation actually happens when we are experiencing extremely high levels of fear and stress. So in a way, we can say that dissociation happens to protect us from what is very distressing about the trauma. So normally dissociation actually happens during the trauma event or just after the event has finished. But what it does, it actually disrupts how our memories are being stored. So the memories, they can't be stored in a correct way as the everyday memories are being stored. And what happens then is we starting to experience flashbacks until at least the memories, they can't be stored in a correct way in our brain. That would then lead us to experience flashbacks. And every time one person, even years after the trauma event has finished, the person might be experiencing flashbacks. And when they again gonna reach that high extreme level of stress, the dissociation might come again to protect the person from feeling that distress. But what the dissociation does as well, it prevents the person from actually processing that trauma memory. And then because of that, people are just stuck in this vicious cycle of re-experiencing trauma and living through all these dissociations and flashbacks over and over again. So that will be it for today. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like it. And I'm gonna see you in the next one then. And if you have any questions about any specific types of dissociations, then please leave them in a comment section and I'm gonna try to answer them. Thank you. Bye-bye.